Okay, we're going to write a function for our new little spreadsheet. I'm just going to get myself a little voice lube here. Now, the function I want to write is a function to say convert this bi-weekly check to monthly. Right? I don't want to have to try and remember the number of days. What if I get paid quarterly? I don't know how many days are in a quarter. I guess I could calculate it, but wouldn't it be great if I had a single command I could type in and just convert to monthly, right? That's what I want. Okay, I'm going to show you how to write this function. I've used it before. It's very handy, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. If nothing else, you'll learn a little bit of VB, and it's kind of it's a break from our normal talk about money and thou shalt not spend more than you make, whatever. All right, so to make this work, I need to save this as a macro-enabled workbook. So if you see that, I just put macro-enabled workbook. Hit save. I'm just going to overwrite my other attempts. I know y'all think I do this in one take all the time, but I don't. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that this developer tab shows up. You may not see it in yours. So to make sure it shows up, use this little pull down, customize quick access toolbar, go to more commands, and then click on customize ribbon. If it's not showing up, it's probably unchecked right here. So just check that and hit OK, and you'll have your developer tag. Okay? Now I'm going to go to my developer tab and go to the Visual Basic interface. You don't see this stuff. That's what you're going to see. This is object-oriented coding. So basically, each sheet is its own object, and you can write code inside of a sheet. I don't really like that method because the code you write here may not be available here. You could probably write it here in this workbook, but my preference, since I want to basically create a module that I can export and use in other worksheets, is to do that. I could have also named it whatever I want. You can see I just changed the name of the module right here in the Properties tab. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, there you go, option explicit. That just means that I want to make sure everything is defined as I'm writing it in. Now what I want to do is I want to define a variable. It's one that I'm going to use quite a bit, and I kind of just want to define it so that I don't have to retype it or recalculate it every single time. So I'm going to write constant for a constant, and then the average weeks in a year. And this is going to be a single, and it's basically equal to 365 divided by 7. And of course, what would coding be without the various mistakes that you sometimes make? Okay, so constant, there's my variable, as single, and there's my formula. In some VB, you cannot write a formula, so you may have to calculate it first and then write it in. That's why I love this immediate window. There you go. So I also want to define a variable, a private variable. You'll see what we're going to do with this when we get there, but for now I just want to define it. Now I'm going to write the main function that calculates the number of payments in a period, the number of payments in a year given a period. So it's going to be a public function. I don't have to make it public, but I'm going to make it public. And it's PPY for payments per year. You're going to pass it a string, and it's going to return a single. Okay. The difference between a function and a sub is a sub just does something. It doesn't return anything, but a function returns something. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's just make sure that this returns a 0. And so if I want to test it now, good. It returned a 0. That's what I expected. Now, So now what I want to do is I want to format this period so that I don't have to guess which characters you wrote uppercase and which ones you wrote lowercase. So I'm going to use the debug command again. This time I'm actually going to use it in my function. And I believe that is the way the format string that I want to use to make everything lowercase. Notice that in my variables, when I'm defining them, I will capitalize certain letters, and then as I'm typing them, I'm going to type them lowercase when I'm wanting to use them. And if they don't jump up and turn into capitals again, then I know that I mistyped that variable. So that's kind of the purpose of that. All right, so if I'm thinking if I get if I put this in, I'm expecting all those D's to be lowercase. All right, there we go. We tested the function, and it works. So now I'm ready for a special function called select case. This is kind of a condition kind of case inside of VB. It's really handy. You have to have an in select. And what you're going to do is you're going to basically write, okay, so you test this, and then if that is, in case that is D or daily, notice that this is all lowercase, because if you type capital D, this is going to change it back to lowercase, right? So if your period is daily, then payments per year is going to be $365, right? If it's weekly, there's just all the different variations that you might want to use. All these variations correspond to 1 week, right? If you're paying once a week, there's where I'm going to use my average number of weeks in a year. Okay. What about 2 weeks? This may be a little inconsistent. You'll see that for bi-weekly, I mean every 2 weeks, but for bi-monthly, I mean the 1st and the 15th. It's kind of like, multiply by 2 and then divide by 2. It's a little inconsistent, but consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, so I am not going to worry about it. Alright, so that's the weeks. So now let's do a monthly. Right, 12 payments in a year. Now here's that inconsistency, right? Bi-monthly. This is equivalent to first, and I can pretty much put whatever I want here. This just gives me another option to use. Just different codes. You do need to make sure they're exclusive, right? If I was to assign here, monthly, right? Well, you see the first time it matches monthly is here. So this is the command it's going to execute. It's never going to execute this command. So I do need to make sure they're a little bit exclusive here. So there's 24 payments if you do the 1st and the 15th, right? Every 2 months. Three months is quarterly, right? I'll go ahead and put 4 months in here because the math is pretty easy. Um, 6 months. We'll do 6 months next. Half year. Half year. Maybe biannually. Now, if they misspell annually or if they put a hyphen or a space, this isn't going to pick it up. I'm not really worried because I'm going to be using this function and I'm going to know better. I'm probably going to do 6 months or biannually or whatever. And then the last one, annually, yearly, I could do more again. Okay, so those are the ones I kind of expect. Now, I want to write an else statement as well, right? This is going to be a catch-all. If none of those matched, hey, I know. Let's say that if you enter a number in your period, that is the number of payments in a year. So, if this is convert to single. Okay. Now, if that's not the case, I don't know. So I'm going to do debug, print, un. Okay, so there's an if statement. If it's numeric, then PPY is this here. Otherwise, I don't know what it is, right? So if I were to test this now, I'm expecting an unrecognized period. Very good. All right, let's just check a couple. Let's check 545. Yeah, returns 545. Okay. How about weekly? Okay, that looks right. How about quarterly? Very good. How about daily? Yep. Okay, that first function looks perfect. All right, so now we're ready to write the follow-up functions. Now, the way we're going to do this is you're going to send me the amount of money. So, public function convert to daily, right? So if I want to convert whatever you have to a daily amount, then I need to know the amount of money we're talking about. Right? And I need to know your period. And I am going to return a modified currency amount that's going to be the daily version of whatever you sent me. Okay? How do I get there? It's really pretty simple. Remember that payments in a year? Bam. There you go. I want to know the payments in a year. If PIY is greater than 0, there was no error, then I'm going to write it this way first. Then convert to daily equals CRMONEY times PIY slash there's 365 days in a year. If that's not it, then okay, that's one way of writing this function, and that will work. Now I'm going to teach you a little bit about VB here. There's another way of writing this function. I could have written this function like this. And then I would not have needed the end if statement, right? Two different ways of writing that if statement. Is that not enough? How about a third way? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back and show you this way. Oh, by the way, here's another really cool tool. If you have several lines of code that you want to comment out, go to your View, and then Toolbars, and then Debug. This is an excellent toolbar to have, but it's not the one I was looking for. Alright, View, Toolbar, Edit, that's what I was looking for. Okay. So highlight your text that you want to comment out and hit this button, and there. So see, I've commented out the two different ways of writing this if statement. I'm going to write this statement one more time, and I'm going to use a different type of if statement. It's called an inline if. And you'll notice this is a lot like the if statement you see inside of Excel. The difference is the extra I. This extra I stands for inline if statement. And the nice thing is I only had to write convert to daily one time, right? I didn't have to write it twice. So I kind of like, of the three different ways, I think I kind of like this the best. So that seems very concise, very simple. I'm good. All right, so that's one of the functions that I need to write. So let's change this now. This one I'm going to convert to weekly. When you do this, you need to make sure that you have change selected text or current module. If you do entire project or entire procedure, I'm sorry. Yeah, you could change everything. So it's also a good idea to check the number of times that you changed it and just confirm. Now, average weeks in a year. Bam. See how many times I would have had to do that calculation? So let's do bi-weekly. A little close there. Then we'll do monthly. I expect to have 12 payments in a year there. Here's something interesting. Let's do bi-monthly. Remember that inconsistency I was telling you about? It's just me. Maybe you're smarter than I am and you can fix this better. Whatever. I never said I was an expert. I'm just passing along this cool stuff for my son and anybody else who might be interested in it. Let's do quarterly now. Expect 4 payments in a year. And annual. We're going to leave it there. You can write more. Hopefully you've been paying attention and you can kind of get the gist of what we're doing. It's not really that difficult. Whenever you finish writing your code, you definitely want to save it and you want to make sure you debug it. Compile it. I mean, you hit debug and compile. If you have an error, like if you change this to something really funky and you don't see that, well, let's say you have something you think will work, but it doesn't really work. Like, what if I do debug.print convert to monthly, and then just do that. Now, see, the IntelliSense doesn't know that that is a mistake. It doesn't know that that function is looking for some arguments, right? But if I do debug and hit compile, it's going to catch that. Hey, this argument isn't optional. You have to enter an argument. So that's why you hit debug every time you change your code, just to make sure that you haven't left behind any mistakes. Okay? We can test our code a little bit. So convert to annually, and let's say 365 a day. This should be, I'm sorry, $1 a day. $1 a day should be $365, right? There we go. All right, let's convert to daily. 365 annually. There we go. That looks right. $1 a day. What if I do weekly? $7. Monthly. That looks about right. So looks like we've done enough debugging. If you want to be more thorough, and some people are more thorough than I am, it doesn't hurt to test every single variation, but we could be here a while. And I've actually already written this about a dozen times, so I am not concerned. Okay, so now we're ready to use this function in our Excel sheet. So I get paid every 2 weeks, right? All right, so I'm going to do equals, convert to monthly, take this amount with this period, bam, and I've converted it. That's all there is to it. This is convert to biweekly, equals, convert, biweekly, take this amount, monthly, bam. Sanity check, everything seems to be working fine. What if I had another $800 here that I made weekly? There you go. I'm going to put it in the main account. Oh wow, since you got this extra income, look at what happened to your cash flow. Wow, it went way up. Let's say we're going to do that phone, and maybe we're going to start working on our emergency fund, and maybe we're going to put, oh, let's fix these. Control C, Control V, and don't worry about these numbers yet. We're going to fix that. There. And you know, this could have been a capital N. It makes no difference. Now. So $500 a month for our emergency fund, maybe our hope fund. Let's put in 153 every 2 weeks. Maybe let's put in 4,000 a year. Okay. Let's see what else might we want to do. Let's update that. Let's $600 a month for entertainment. Let's say we're going to buy a nicer car. Very good. That probably will increase our insurance. Phone, utility, rent, gas in the car, groceries, $250. Yeah, we're good there. Wow, look at all this. We still have $1,500 left over here. You know what? Why don't we take that $1,500 and what if we put that on? Well, I don't know. Let's just put it on entertainment. There we go. Okay, so see, my cash flow is pretty close, right? Let's make sure we've got these new categories here. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. Suppose you're going to have your lawn mowed. Now, your lawnmower, he comes maybe twice a month for 3 months out of the year. So maybe 6 to 8 times in a year. So instead of putting an M or anything else, we're going to put 8 here. Every time he comes, he charges you $30. There we go. Okay. Now, what about some dues? What if you have your Patty membership dues? Those are maybe $400 a year, and maybe you have Patty insurance. That's about $500 a year. Maybe you have Dan insurance. That's Divers Alert Network, right? And that's about $100 a year. Okay. I need to come off about $100. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. There. All right. So I still have $2,000 a month for entertainment. That's pretty healthy. You know what? Maybe I want a nicer car. How much did I put on my car? Oh, 200. Let's take that. Let's take that to 500. And let's take 500 off of this. There we go. All right. So now we have a budget that pretty much works. Oh, we need to make sure we map these. Where are we going to pay this from? Let's pay this from the billing account. All right, good. Now, since we made some changes to our budget, we need to update how much we're transferring. We need to put another. We need to take another. Let's see, what is that? Let's put another $364 into our billing account, right? $365 into our billing account. So equals 990.13 plus 365. There. Let's see if that worked. Maybe take $1 off, or maybe take 24 cents off. Minus 0.24. Okay, there we go. All right, everything's even Steven now. Every time you get paid, every 2 weeks, you need to put this amount in. Hang on. That's every week. Well, I'll tell you what, let's do. Make the math simple. There. That's the same amount. Shouldn't have affected anything. So every 2 weeks, we're going to put this amount in. Obviously, if this job is really once a week, then well, I'll show you how. Maybe for the next lesson, I'll show you how to sort of compensate for that. How much to take out of each check, right? So per check, how much should I take out of this one, and how much should I take out of this one, assuming you have 2 different incomes. I'll figure that out for the next lesson. But for now, I've kind of gone over how to write these functions. They're really great. I love them. I use them all the time. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. Take care.